In this lesson, we'll take our first steps to create a scene using Three.js. To be able to display anything using Three.js, we're going to need three things. There's scene, the camera, and the renderer, and that's exactly what we're going to do in this lesson. Fortunately, since we have the documentation, we already have a good source code that we can start from. And you're going to notice that inside the documentation, we have the code that we're going to use in this example. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to creating a scene, and we have this source code that we're going to be able to simply just copy this code and using it. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to copy this code, make some modifications, and it's exactly what we're going to use in the code. So let's start by actually copying this code right here. We're going to then take it and we're going to go to Visual Studio. Inside Visual Studio, I'm going to replace the code that I've got for the index.js, and I'm going to make some modifications to it. As you'll see, with this source code, we've declared the scene, we've declared the camera, and we've declared the renderer. We also need to establish the size of the renderer because this is going to set the scene of what we're actually going to be seeing inside our metaverse. So let's take a look exactly how these various elements work. And I'm actually going to leave some comments. I encourage you to leave some comments in every code you do because it will always remind you exactly what it is that you're doing at every step of the development process. So I will be leaving my comments here to remind us always what we're doing. So here's my first comment. It's going to be declaration of a new scene, okay, with Three.js. Perfect. Okay, now I'm going to be creating some differences, and in fact, let me just go to the open port that we have. Let me run live server again. Let me take a look at what we got right now. So we go to the browser and we pop it open, and what we find is that the page we have, the metaverse is blank. It's actually just a white background and nothing else. Let's change it. This is your metaverse, and you can put whatever you want. So let's create a different background, and I'll show you exactly how I can do it. All I need to do is I go scene.background, and then I define it by saying new three.color, and then the value. Let me put the value. Here's the color that we're going to use. Okay, and we're going to choose that. We're going to go back to this in a little bit. Now, let me leave additional comments. This is actually our camera. This is our renderer, and we also need to have comments. So let me put the comments right now. So here we go, camera and renderer configuration. Perfect. We got that, so we're clear on our code. Then we have here how we declared our camera, the perspective of the camera, which we're going to look in our browser. And all of this is going to be done with the various modules that we're going to get from Three.js. Okay? We don't need to use anything. It's all included in Three.js. Let me hit save. And wait, let me comment right now here how we're actually leave that out, and let's look back at the browser that we have. There's no color, nothing. Well, what we need is actually we need to go to the documentation and we need to find the renderer. So we're going to start the render. If we go to rendering scene, here we have this code, renderer scene camera. Perfect. So we're going to go back to the code and we're going to place this line here. This is going to render the scene. We hit save, we go back, and now we see it differently. The color's black. Let's change that color. So let's go back here. We don't want it to be a black. So let me change here the color I want. So, oh wait, let me change here. Here's a typo. Okay, got it. Always watch your code. You might have typos. What color do we want? Well, if we go, there's actually a color picker that we can use. There's a really wide range of colors here, but I really like the cyan color right here. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to copy that code right there, and I'm going to go and I'm going to include that specific value. Every color needs to always start 0x in order to be rendered correctly. And as you can see in your browser right now, we've got the color that we chose. It's a cyan color that we chose for this metaverse. We chose that specifically, and what we have right now is this is the code we're using. Now, if I want to have a different one, I can use 0xBFD1E5. I like this color. That's what I want to use. So this specific color is what I'm going to be using. It's a light color that I want to use for this specific metaverse, and that's what we're going to be using in this specific case, okay? In the next lesson, we are going to be creating the 3D scene lights that will enable us to see our objects in this 3D metaverse we are creating.